Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm reviewing an SD40R locomotive from Athearn. My example is decorated as Southern Pacific 7319 and is part of Athearn's Prime for Grime series with faded paint. This model is offered in two versions. The MSRP for the version with Soundtrack's Economy DCC and sound installed is $199.98. The MSRP for the DCC Ready version is $139.98. I got my DCC Ready version from modeltrainstuff.com for $118.98. We'll start the model at 100 possible points. The engine comes in a cardboard box with a clear plastic window on top. A bag of fuel tank detail parts is tucked into the two-piece plastic cradle that protects the model. There aren't any instructions on where to use these parts. The best bet is to consult prototype photos. A set of drop steps in the down position are also tucked into the cradle. These can be used to replace the ones on the model that are in the up position. Hunks of foam keep the handrails from bending inward. This is a good box that should protect the model for storage and transport. In the early 1990s, SP was testing new paint formulas designed to comply with new regulations that required non-volatile solvents. Whatever formula was used on 7319 was unsuccessful, and the gray paint peeled away from the tan primer in large sheets. The result was sometimes called SP's Desert Storm Unit, as it reminded some people of desert camouflage. I'm not sure exactly when 7319 was painted, but I found a photo of it from 1990 with the paint just starting to peel. Another photo from 1989 shows it in SP gray with no peeling. The unit only looked this way for a few years. I found a photo from 1995 of 7319 after it had been repainted into SP's speed lettering scheme. Part of the reason to buy a model like this in the first place is because reproducing this kind of a paint job with conventional masking techniques would be difficult and time-consuming. Comparing the model to prototype photos, it almost looks right. Most of the photos of the real 7319 show the tan color inside the step wells and also some tan on the pilots. It looks like SP must have sprayed the red over the primer first, then the gray, as in prototype photos there's some red overspray on the tan on the front of the battery box on the engineer's side. On the model, this area is gray. It's really hard to evaluate the accuracy of a paint job like this, though, as the appearance of the real engine could have changed daily as more paint peeled off. I'm going to give the model the benefit of the doubt with regard to the paint job. Athearn did a pretty good job with the details. The engine has the narrow post in the front of the cab on the engineer's side that indicates the unit that once had an L-shaped window but was converted back to two panes. The model has plated over areas where SP's oscillating and emergency lights used to be. The class lights are blanked out just like the real thing. Athearn even included the toolbox in the fireman's side common on rebuilt SP diesels. I wish Athearn would offer this as a detail part. Unfortunately, they forgot the Dash 2 style water sight glass on the engineer's side of the long hood that SP's SD40Rs had. The horn doesn't look quite right for 7319. In photos it has a different horn. The beacon should also be slightly higher off the roof on three supports, not flush like it is on the model. In front the plow is close but not exactly like the ones in photos of the real engine. The cutout under the coupler box should be squared off, not angled as it is here. In back, the rear class light should be blanked out, not just painted over like on the model. The real 7319 lost its rear class lights by 1989 before the paint looked this way. Given all the other SP details that are included, I think Athearn missed the mark here, so I'm taking 10 points for all of these issues combined. The paint on this model looks terrible. Just kidding, it's supposed to, right? The paint is opaque and thin enough not to hide any details. The markings are crisp, at least what markings there are. On the sides, the white lettering seems not quite opaque, though in this particular engine it kind of adds to the effect. The handrails are made of a flexible plastic and the stanchions are mostly straight. These are molded in gray plastic, but on the real 7319 the handrails were peeling too. The cab has armrests, wind deflectors, and cab vents. The sunshades appear to be photo-etched metal. The cab windows are positionable, though on my model I found them difficult to move. Also, once they're fully open, it's really difficult to get them to close again. A speed recorder cable is on the center axle of the fireman's side front truck. This unit has trucks with high-mounted brake cylinders, correct for 7319 in the 1990s. There are no brake lines on the trucks. In front, the model has separately applied metal windshield wipers and freestanding grab irons. The front pilot has an uncoupling lever that slants upward on the ends to clear the plow, just like the prototype. The pilot also has MU hoses and a brake hose. Unfortunately, there's a very pronounced mold seam running around the top edge of the short hood, something I've seen on a couple other recent Athearn SP models. This would be impossible to fix without repainting the nose, so I'm taking 5 points. In back, the model has more freestanding grab irons. The rear-mounted brake wheel is nicely rendered. SP had a couple different ways of blanking out the rear lights on its diesels. The model has the version with separate cover plates for the emergency light and oscillating light. Another version has a single large plate that covers both openings. I don't have a clear enough photo of the rear of the real 7319 to say for sure which type it had. The end handrails have double stanchions in the middle just like the real thing. On the rear Pilot, the model has an uncoupling lever, MU hoses, and a brake hose. Up top, the engine has an open exhaust hatch. The fans have see-through grills with separate blades inside, though these don't look as good as some fans I've seen on other models. The dynamic brake fans don't have the right number of blades, although I think they're adequate for a mid-price model like this one. The dual vents on the roof appear to be correct. I don't have a good roof shot of 7319, but I found one of 7316 and it had the same arrangement. The model has a nicely done curved grab iron and sand filler hatch behind the rearmost radiator fan. Underneath, the engine has most of the major details like air reservoirs, air filters, and a bell. There isn't much of any plumbing. The trucks use Athearn's tried and true blue box design with interior axle bearings and cosmetic plastic side frames. All the axles are powered and all the wheels pick up current. The model has McHenry plastic knuckle couplers. The coupler in the front is at the correct height. The coupler in the rear is low, so I'm taking 5 points. All the wheels are engaged according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no body wobble. The engine weighs 15.6 ounces. I measured a peak drawbar pull of 2.8 ounces on my force gauge, about average for an HO scale diesel. I'm running my engine with a DC throttle. The headlights are LEDs and they're directional. The beacon lights up with the headlight, but only in the forward direction. The engine is a smooth runner and fairly quiet. It has a little bit of Athearn growl, but it's quiet enough to be easily drowned out if a sound decoder was added. To take the model apart, remove both coupler screws and then pull out the coupler boxes. Then you can lift the shell off. Inside, the engine has a 21-pin dummy board that can be replaced with a 21-pin decoder if you want to install DCC. Alternatively, you could replace the entire light board with a board-style decoder. Removing 2 small screws in the rear reveals a sound chamber for a speaker. Let's see what we've got. The model lacked the Dash 2 style water sight glass, had an incorrect plow and horn, and had a few other minor inaccuracies, so I took 10 points in the prototype accuracy category. There's a mold seam around the edge of the short hood, so I took 5 points in the paint and detail category. The model has 1 low coupler, so I took 5 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with a total of 80 out of 100 possible points, which would be a B- on a report card. Overall, this is a pretty good model and it deserves a green signal. Athearn did a fairly good job with this engine. I think if you're the type of modeler who's looking for a reasonable facsimile of SP7319, you'll like it. It could also be used as a jumping off point to create an even better model of 7319 if you're willing to put in some work.